part of like your formative experience too? Like listening
Definitely,
to those
man.
songs growing up as well as like Pinoy rock?
Yeah, definitely, man. Those bands and those songs that you mentioned are, at this stage of my life, when somebody talks to me about my influences, I'm usually, everybody's expecting this to be a very hard, we're a hard rock band, and we're mostly grunge
Yeah,
influence.
yeah.
But those are the influences that I usually say. But if we're talking about the real ones, like the ones that really got me into music, those songs are truly they basically comprise the DNA of what I am, what I used to be probably when I speak of it now. But yeah, definitely. Binocular, Steven Speaks, the Moffats in my elementary years, and when I went to high school, like Simple Plan, Linkin Park, and of course Filipino music. But for me, actually, when I was a kid, I was not really into music. None of my parents, I don't have any member in my family who's into music. In fact, I have a grandmother who's a very strict school teacher who used to tell me, or my parents used to tell me that my grandmother used to beat them up every time
Shit.
she sees them. Every time she sees them playing a guitar or even hanging out with guys who play guitar, because my grandmother sees it as some sort of like them just not doing anything useful.
Yeah.
So yeah, so a very old school Filipino Hispanic tradition. They see musicians as these lazy, as these bums who are just not really good for anything. But I remember, so I did not have any musical influence, like an actual constant presence of somebody who's teaching me music. No, I did not have that, but I also remember when I was like 8 or 9, I used to join school contests, like going to competitions, like writing contests and whatever. And then every time I hear music, whatever kind of music, it usually made me miss home. So I usually when I hear music back then, it reminded me of home, or at least in my neighborhood where people were playing music. So it kind of made me miss home, and I'd get homesick, and I usually would have to quit competition and go back home. And of course, I was such like, I was like, what do you call this here? A mama's boy.
Oh man.
every time, every time I hear music of whatever kind, I normally, you know, it normally made me want to go back home. So I hated music for that reason. When I was like 8 or 9, but in when I was 10, somehow I heard while I was hanging out at home, we had this old karaoke, no, old radio, just a little box, a little radio, whatever, and it played. I remember it played Butterfly. Which band was that? Come, my baby, come, come, you my
Oh yeah,
butterfly,
come my
sugar.
lady, come my lady.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Oh
And I got
god.
hooked into the groove, the beat, and the rapping. So that was my first musical experience where I actually said to myself, "Wow, this is actually enjoyable." And I started listening to that radio, and all the hip hop hits back then, and of course Linkin Park, and Limp Bizkit.
Hmm.
Yeah. So at this point in my life, when I talk to when somebody mentions those bands, you know, I mean, most of the people that I hang out with will probably tell me that those are Baduy. Do you know that word?
Yeah,
It's a Filipino
Badoy.
word for uncool, right?
Uncool.
Yeah.
I don't know what
Yeah.
you think of these, but I mean, here's Wolfgang, and here
Oh
is
man,
Color It Red, 2-in-1. Their first two
you
albums.
you
That's
have
what I
those.
have. That's at the
Actually,
top of my
I
rack.
got into Wolfgang a little late. Actually, it wasn't. They're not really that popular where I'm from, here in Mindanao. But because I was mainly listening to vanilla radio, whatever,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
mainstream songs, and Wolfgang by that time was no longer that popular in the Philippines. But as I got into college, I had friends who listened to metal, and of course, I got introduced to Basta and
Yeah,
company.
he's one roll another heavy.
Correct.
Yeah. Let a caress blonde man.
So yeah, like I was saying, those bands
Yeah.
that I mentioned, there's actually, I must really confess, there's still a guilty pleasure of mine. Every once in a while, when I drive my car, I usually listen to those songs. I have this special folder for high school hits, and you'd find, again, Link Park, Eminem. I got into. Did you know that
Yeah.
I got into Eminem so much in high school that I even dyed my hair uh, blonde
With
one
the
time?
frosted tips and everything.
Yeah, and
Oh
everything. But
god damn.
I actually thought that I looked cool in that. But when I look back at those pictures now, jeez,
Um
what was I
but,
thinking?